Bianca, do we have anybody? Visitors' remarks? No? Sorry. Open a public hearing. It's still 6 o'clock. Do we have anybody signed up for public hearing?
There is several people here.
Okay, all right. Public hearing to receive comments from the residents concerning a variance request on side setback requirements for a solar canopy from 6 feet to 1 foot located at 308 West 10th Street. We have somebody here to speak on that issue. You please go over to the microphone.
Well, I just wanted to know if they were gonna let me have the canopy. I'm trying to put the canopy to save light.
You're the property owner, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any comments that you want to let them know?
Well,
As we consider?
they started doing the canopy because they had the permits and everything.
Okay. I have a comment. You can wait on discussion when we get to the action item. But this is for, just let the public speak.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add to your comment?
No.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll take that into consideration. Anybody else on item number 1 on the public hearing? Item number 2 under public hearing to receive comments from the residents concerning the application for a conditional use permit to allow 2 duplexes to locate at 100 and 102 North Canal Street, zoned R, a single-family district. Do I have some people that want to speak on that? Please, sir.
My name is Tom Jones, and I live at 104 North Canal Street. I've lived there between 25 and 30 years. One of the reasons that we came to Los Fresnos is because it was a quiet city, and it's grown. We can't do anything about that. We like it. But our preference, my preference, is that I would prefer that it stay single-family home. Now, I know Mr. Uri, and we've spoken, and we were speaking earlier, and I understand he wants to put on in the duplexes, but pretty much in the duplexes is going to be added traffic, especially at that corner. North Canal and Jacqueline have become a cut-through street, and so we have a lot of cut-through traffic in addition to the regular traffic and the regular citizens. So therefore, to assist in keeping as quiet as possible, I would prefer a single-family home. And again, we were speaking earlier I was and several of my neighbors and Mr. Uri, and he sounds like he's going to put together a wonderful project. But I think a lot of us in that neighborhood got burned out from the previous renters. There was drugs, there was dogs, there was unkempt grass, and the city didn't enforce the grass ordinances. That's how I met Mr. Uri's son. As a policeman, he came over with dog control. But as a single-family home, we all have made an investment, and we would prefer to keep it that way. I understand the idea that he has and the people he wants to rent to, but once he starts building and once the city approves it, we really as neighbors have no control over who he rents to. So we would like to keep it a single-family home and keep it the way it is. Now, I don't fault Mr. Uri for what he wants to develop, but there are other areas, I think, that are better in the city for the type of units in which he wants to build. So I would prefer at this time not to issue the permit to have single-family homes. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. By all means.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Mary Curtis. I live at 103 West Resaca. The duplexes would go practically in my backyard. I already have duplexes on the other side of me on West Resaca. I do not need to be surrounded by multifamily homes. It's changed the entire atmosphere of our community. We are single-family units. We invested our lives there. I too have been here 25 some odd years. I have raised my daughter here because it was a quiet little town. We're not staying quiet if we can't keep some of our neighborhoods, especially the older ones that have been the establishment of this town. That's why I chose this town, is because it was quiet. It was, you know, the Mayberry of South Texas, if you will. And this will change. They have been remodeling the housing, the duplexes across the street. Not having anyone there has changed the quality of life in my home. There aren't dogs getting out pooping in my yard. There aren't kids running across my yard to get to Paredes Line. There aren't all the extra traffic of cars. It's quieter. It's nicer. It's what I invested in when I came here in 1994 and what I'd like to continue to live at. Like my neighbor Tom, I have no problem with him wanting to make money somewhere, but it shouldn't be in my backyard. For 25 years, I've had no house there, let alone duplexes. Okay? There was a house on the corner and then an empty lot right before Tom. I have enjoyed the quietness of that empty lot. I understand somebody will eventually build on it. If I'd had an opportunity to purchase it, I would have kept it empty. But to put a duplex on there is just completely against why I came here, why I chose Los Fresnos over Brownsville or Harlingen. It feels like I'm living in an apartment duplex when there is so much activity from multifamily units, and I am against it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We'll take those into consideration. Is there anybody else wishing to speak on item number 2?
Hello, my name's Gilbert Melendez. I live on 105 North Canal Street. I'm also opposed to having 2 duplexes there. To me, a duplex is just another fancy word for apartments. And that would mean a lot more traffic, a lot more parking space needed, not only in that property, but around the street. As it is, that corner is very busy because of the highway. So I'm opposed to having multi-dwellings there versus a single-family dwelling. And for the same reasons that Mr. Jones mentioned too. So I do not want to see duplexes, 2 duplexes in there, because that would create more problems in that area. It would not be a quiet atmosphere anymore as it is before when that house was rented. I really had to be careful with my property because of so many people coming and going, because that was a rental place, and there was numerous rentees in that home. And I was concerned about the safety, not only for myself, my property, but my neighbors, because of dogs running around. So who's to say that this duplex, 2 duplexes, will not be a Section 8 home? And again, I'll repeat, to me, a duplex is just another fancy word for apartments. And I don't think it would look good right there in the corner either, because that's a residential area. And again, I oppose this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comments. We'll take those into consideration as well. Do we have anybody else for item number 2 under public hearings?
Good afternoon. I agree with all my neighbors. I don't think that area is a place to put duplexes. If the owner could respect that and respect us as neighbors, I think it should be, I'm more opposed, not opposed, I'm more towards leaning to single-family homes to keep it the way it is. I've been living here for a while. I was in Brownsville. I moved in with my husband, Pete, and I love this area. It was a commute back and forth, and I got used to it. But now that I live here, I've been here almost, maybe 15 years? Pete has been here longer. So in that consideration, I prefer single-family homes instead of duplexes. And like our neighbor said, that's more of a fancy word for apartments. If y'all can take that. Orange is, 106 North Canal Street, next to Mr. Jones. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you as well for your comments.
Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Joel Melendez. I'm at 103 North Canal, directly across the empty lot. And I live in Houston. I've always had this home as a second home because of my family. When I come visit my brother who lives next door, they have a place to stay. Now, I wrote a letter because initially, because of my schedule, I was not going to be able to be here. And my wife and I put a letter together, and you might have a copy in front of you. But as homeowners of 103 North Canal, we strongly oppose a conditional use permit that allows the admittance of duplexes in our neighborhood that introduces a threat to our property's current and future integrity and value. Our neighborhood was zoned initially as a single-family dwelling neighborhood for the specific purpose of attracting single-family home buyers, enabling them to build equity in their homes, and more importantly, ensuring the security of their families in a safe environment. The addition of duplexes in our neighborhood introduces several risks to the residents who live in the region, defined as, on your letter, North Canal, East and West Oaxaca, Ash, and North Arroyo. The risks include a redefined entry phase to the neighborhood inconsistent with the current zoning, loss appeal to the current zone, increased traffic and street parking within the neighborhood due to inavailability along the busy Arroyo Boulevard, increased potential for rental tenants whose initiatives to maintain their properties is less than of homeowners, increased crime through potential Section 8 designation, loss of perceived family security, which results in general decline and reduction of sales by the family buyers, single-family buyers. Existing residents lose their motivation to continue making improvements with no return on investment. Just 2 or 3 months ago, I was seriously about investing over $100,000 to improve my home. And I've got the plans. And at the time that I arrived to this house and I saw this property being torn down at the corner, I walked over there to see if there was a permit to tear it down. There was no permit. Now, how that happened, I have no idea. Told my brother, I said, what's going on across the street? He said, I don't know yet. I called the city, spoke to Melissa. She didn't know that yet. Until she said, if something is going to happen, you'll get a letter 2 weeks prior to whatever permits need to be issued. Now, when I received my letter on the 13th, that was written on the 7th, and you call a meeting on the 18th, it's not exactly 2 weeks' notice. Now, we strongly opposed the idea of a multi-family development. Bottom line, guys, we all have homes. How many of you live in subdivisions, single-family dwelling? Probably every single one of us in here. How many of you like your privacy while you're at your home? Now with that, how would you like for someone to press into the city's office and request a hearing on changing the landscape from a single-family dwelling to multi-tenant? Which they're calling duplexes, but in a sense it's still an apartment. Even worse, at your subdivisions or at your main entrance. All the current residents here, I'm sure, are protesting for their own reasons as to why this needs to be stopped immediately. Multifamily development at this corner will bring an increase in traffic, as I mentioned earlier, increase in traffic, increase in parking at the entrance, the increased noise that we haven't discussed yet. And if these multi-units have children, how many of these children are going to be running out in the street in that busy intersection? Then we have blood on our hands. One solution, this person, this company, whoever it is, if they just stick to a single-family dwelling permit, I'm all for it. But I don't think an apartment should be there. There's plenty of other places around here they can build them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other wanting to make comments on?
I can't pronounce his first name, but I know you know him because he used to be in zoning and planning. Mr. Saldana, he owns a property right across the corner, in the corner where he lives at. I talked with him, he said, I want to be there, John, but I can't, I'm in Michigan right now. But I'm strongly opposed to having 2 duplexes in that corner. That's my comment, you know, and that's what he told me. I talked with him on the phone. He said, I'm in Michigan right now, I can't make it. But he strongly opposes it too, and he used to be with planning and zoning. That's what he mentioned to me. And also, he's a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. One more?
My name's Sensu Arza Jr. I live on 101 West Resaca Drive, right behind the alley to this property. And when I moved in, there was a family there. There was a family, single family, and they had 2 pit bulls. Always kept them fenced in, never had an issue with the dogs. They did their job as far as taking care of those dogs, keeping them fenced, keeping them, and there was never any issues. And I know for a fact, because I'm an educator here in this school district, they had at least 4 school-age kids, you know. And even with 4 school-age kids, they would play on the lot adjacent to them. And they were always in the, I always thought of this, and I never said anything to them because it was not my place. But every once in a while, you'd see balls just bouncing up over on Paredes, or you'd see them run around their own property, and now they're on the curve. Now they're on the Paredes side, and this is just 4 kids, and they weren't tiny; they were a little older. So, you know, I said, I just hope the day don't come when they venture a little farther off the curve and get nailed, you know, because it can happen. Traffic does come through there a little faster than usual, even though we're in the city. And I've lived in this community 14 years. And part of the appeal, and I will tell you this, it's an appeal. We raised 4 children here. They're all gone. They're college graduates. They're finishing their master's, or they finished their master's. The last one's finishing her doctorate. you know? And one of the things that appealed to us here was that when the sun started to go down, we didn't have to worry about anything. Nothing. To this day, we don't have to worry about a situation where you have people out at night, where you have people down your street you don't know. You understand? I've lived in other communities in this valley here, in the Lower Rio Grande Valley, and that's not the case. If you guys have never left Los Fresnos and you've lived all your life in Los Fresnos, you've mixed out on some anxiety attacks late at night. I can guarantee you've missed out, because Miss Curtis is my neighbor, and the first thing I told her when I moved in, I said, whenever you need anything, you let me know. Call me 2 or 3 in the morning if there's ever an issue. And she said, Coach, we don't have any issues around here. And I said, well, I hope that stays. It stayed. And that's part of the appeal, people coming to live in Los Fresnos, you know? Whether it's the way you guys managed it over the years or the way it's always been. But when it gets dark, you don't have people walking around, per se, looking for something to get their hands on or something to do, you know? And it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling because I like to sleep well at night, you know? But with this process that we're talking about, building, you're gonna bring in some different, a different set of, the atmosphere is gonna change, no doubt. You bring in more families. Now we got duplex setting where more families come in. You're not gonna bring in people that are vested in that neighborhood. They're coming in because they need a place to stay. Whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 1 month, you know? And what happens there is when you start bringing in people, and this is just, and you can probably even take this as a community as a whole. When you start opening your gates and you start, for the sake of business or for the sake of growth, bringing in people that are not vested in your community, I want to see whether you can sleep good at night in 10 years. You understand? Because now you bring in people that are not part of the community, that might not be invested in being a good neighbor, and that's where the issues might come. Now you bring people that live in an apartment and have 4 kids. Those kids want to go out and play. And if there's not a yard, a closed-in yard, they're going to find a place to play in the street. And we're going to have liabilities, and we're going to have issues. You know? I strongly, I could sit here and talk forever, but I won't, because before I got here, I was cooking, and I love to cook. Yeah, some of you guys up there probably haven't had dinner, and you're thinking, can we go over? No, you can't. She knows, because she's had some of my good food, and I've had some of hers as well. She's an excellent neighbor. But let's consider what's at stake. Let's consider what's at stake, because Los Fresnos is not a bad place to live, I guarantee you. Considering to some of the other places in the valley that are the same size we are, they'll have 2, 3 times more issues than what we have. So take your considerations as a whole. Take these people's livelihoods as a whole. Because let's face it, when we move into a neighborhood, a lot of times we don't move in on a 1-month plan or on a 1-year plan. You know, even people like us that I'm a coach, we move around a lot. I haven't moved in 14 years. I love it here. You know, we vest ourselves in the neighborhood we're in. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We'll obviously take those into consideration as well. Is there anybody else speaking on item number 2 for the public hearing?
My name is Sylvia Basaldua Yuri. I'm Miguel Uri's wife. We're how long have we been here? 12, 13 years. We brought a lot of business to the city of Los Fresnos. the majority of homes in Village East he built, they're beautiful homes. And with all due respect to all the neighbors on Canal Street, that house that was at the corner was a rat infested, rented by bad people, but that's the way it was for many years. Also, to the issue of the dogs, they had problems with the dogs. I think you said, sir, that there was no issues with the dogs? There was issues with the dogs.
We've never had any issues, and I have.
There was. Mr. Jones can attest to that. The city's growing. So we wanted to build something nice. What we build are nice homes, nice structures. We want to make Los Fresnos a even more beautiful place. And like I do feel for the neighbors, the city's growing. We can't stop that. There's duplexes all around the residential subdivisions. Like, I have pictures and I have the addresses. On the next street, there's a commercial building that has, I believe, a meat market, or is it a meat market? And it has a voodoo lady, I don't know, something like that. The city's changing. I don't think we should stop. We already have rental properties, and we do not rent to just to anybody. This is to make the city better, not to have a rat-infested place. That's not who we are. We've done a lot for the city. We've grown with the city. We love it here. You know, it's time to have it continue growing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Can I add to that?
Certainly.
You know, I didn't say this guy's got a bad idea, okay? I just don't think it's a spot for it. These residents here have already told you they've lived here 20, 25 years, maybe 30. Only because I said, because I live in Houston, I come down here regularly and blah, blah, blah. I've actually owned this whole home over 25 years. All right? Pay my taxes diligently. Pay all my bills in advance. All right? Now, the gentleman or this company has a great idea, but this is not the spot for it. It is not the spot. You're right at the corner of a major intersection, and it's a nasty intersection because everybody runs the red lights heading south on that street, which I forget the cross street. And then you're going to have, you know, we don't know what the ultimate intention is here. You guys don't know, unless y'all know something that I don't know that hasn't been told to me. But somewhere along the line, we don't know whether this is going to turn into a Section 8 property or not. Okay? Now, there's been studies made on duplexes and apartments in residential areas. And they don't do anything but harm your properties, the residents' properties. Okay? You can pay the pony all day for me, but this is not going to go through, and we need your help as a city to make it right. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take that into consideration as well. Yes?
I have one more comment. Do I need to go up here? Can I just say?
Please.
In regards to one of the comments that there was no permit to demolish the property, there was a permit. So it was demolished properly with a permit, otherwise we couldn't have demolished it. So I want to make that correction.
Thank you.
I was studying some of the research that he referred to on multifamily housing units being built around single-family neighborhoods. And it is a different type of investment. I've lived in a duplex. It was a stepping stone to somewhere else. It was not a permanent residence. The house I live in is where I raised my child, where I hope my grandchildren will come visit me, but not anytime soon. She's only 22. But this is what I'm dreaming of, that this home that I bought, the only house I've ever purchased in my life, is the one that I will continue to enjoy. It is different when you have somebody who has bought property to invest in it for their life than it is somebody using a piece of property as a stepping stone. And you get some level of transience because they're going to move somewhere else and somebody's going to take their place. I don't care what the screening process is. You can't guarantee me it's not going to be a rat-infested wild pit bull's home again. You can't. Nobody can. But I do know that people who own their property tend to take care of it better than people who rent. And that is what the research shows. So I'm looking forward to a single-family home, not duplexes. Thank you.
Thank you. Make one last call for somebody else that needs to speak on item 2.
I'll say something else. Good afternoon. My name is Miguel Uri, owner of Interdiamond Builders. First of all, what we're planning to do and build there is not going to be low income. I have several people lined up already that would like to rent units. There are U.S. Marshals. I got state troopers. Build it East, when I built 46 houses there, I built for law enforcement only. I built, as a matter of fact, I built the house, the assistant chair, Juan Rodriguez home. He lives in one of the houses that I built on Village East. 7 state troopers. We have 8 U.S. Marshals, 2 FBI, 4 IRS. And my investment in what I want to build is for my retirement. So I own some units that I'm always taking care of. Some of my neighbors behind that place where I want to build, I don't know why they have the grass this. I have pictures, and there's some of the neighbors around where I'm planning on building, they don't keep their backyard clean. And I'm impressed to see some of those places so ugly. If you live here in Los Fresnos and you swim by where I want to build, we clean that property. My workers are there 3 times a month. We go every other week, sometimes we go every week. Mr. Jones, you know that we always keep that place clean. Some of my neighbors right next to me, they're saying that I'm gonna bring kids or low-income people. That's not the plan. These are gonna be custom built that are gonna be bigger. One unit is gonna be bigger than some of the houses that are already built. And I'm not planning to let my units just rent them out to anybody. I will have law enforcement only. U.S. Customs, Border Patrol. In Villages, I sold 14 houses to 14 U.S. Customs. I'm building another subdivision, which is gonna be all law enforcement's, Border Patrols only. So I brought most of those law enforcements to the city. I'm not gonna bring somebody that I think that is gonna hurt. I love Los Fresnos. I've been here for 15 years. I just moved from Los Fresnos, but then I'm building my house right across from Mr.
in Anagua Street. I'm building my home there. I live right across from Judge Daniels. I will build, if I'm gonna build duplex, custom built, I will build them right next to my house. And I'm gonna build, as a matter of fact, something that I want you to know that I'm gonna live right now in one of them, right next to Mr. Jones.
If you could address them, they're really the ones who are gonna vote.
Yes.
So just, they're the ones who are gonna vote.
Oh,
so
sorry.
She doesn't get a vote.
Oh, not a problem.
We need to
Thank you,
move
sir.
on.
But I know the concern of the neighbors, but I want you all to know that you are not gonna have what you had for so many years. The people that I had problem when I purchased that property, they were dealing with drugs. The place was a mess. And it was allowed by the city to be that way for many years until I came in. And I hated to see that house. And, you know, I even talked to some of the people that I know, police officers, to see what is going on. Why don't you all keep in those places? So, like some of my neighbors that I have, that I seen their patios with real ugly backyards. I'm not planning to build low income for low income people. I'm planning to build beautiful, custom built duplexes, and they're my retirement. That's where I want to retire, and that's why I'm doing this investment. And believe me, I want to take care of my money. So I will you will have good neighbors, and the rent is high. It's not going to be for low income people like the project that we have right behind those apartments on the other street. There's not for housing. They go through a process. They gotta be fingerprint, they have to be, they're law enforcement, so, I mean, and nurses. I'm gonna bring some nurses. I have nurses right now, teachers. I have somebody from the school district, they call me, Mr. Rudy, would you be able to rent me a unit? I have a line, already people lined up. I have 2 U.S. Marshals that are coming from Houston, and they would like to rent my units for 5 years. I have 2 engineers from SpaceX that want to pay up from 10 years, $1,500 each unit. And most of those units will be a lot bigger than some of the houses that are right next to that place. Landscaping, I will build and I will do a real nice landscaping, because I'm not planning to have it as a project for low-income people. You're gonna see BMWs, Mercedes-Benz, expensive cars there. And you cannot rent my units unless you make no less than $60,000. Thank you.
Certainly. I'm just,
We're emphasizing here that there's like 30, 50 people in line for 2 duplexes. I mean, it's hard for me to comprehend that when you tell me you got a long list of people that want to go in there. And aside from that, we have to look at the safety issue in that corner. That's a very busy corner. Once school starts, it's going to create a lot of problems. More vehicles going in that corner, more people trying to turn in that corner. So we have to look at the safety issue in this matter, not just the money thing, okay? Okay, retirement. I mean, you need 2 duplexes for your retirement? Are you kidding me when you tell me you've sold 18 homes, 20 homes, 30 homes? You need that money for retirement? You really do? And it's not only about the money issue, it's about the safety in that corner and the neighborhood. But I had to reply on the retirement issue. Come on, man, you tell me You got 30 people lined up, US Marshals, lawyers, nurses, and 2 duplexes? There in that corner? Come on, man. But look at the safety issue too, not just the money thing on this project. Because if you're going to build something there, you're going to build it for a profit. And basically, you don't care about how the neighborhood's going to look right there in the corner with duplexes. We don't even know if it's going to be 2-story. We can say a lot of things right now. But a lot of things can happen once you issue a permit. Everything that was said here goes out the window. And I'm not talking about these people here. I'm talking about the builder. But that 30 people in line, come on, man, give me a break. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before he speaks, we need to stop rebutting back and forth. You know, people each can have a turn to speak, and it really shouldn't be back. We're all adults here, and it shouldn't be, well, let me speak to counteract the other person, So go ahead and speak, but please.
No, I'm just going to finalize my last sentence.
There's a lot of things, and people are repeating, and so I think it needs to be done that way and civilly and get your point across, and then we'll move on.
Yes, sir. Got it. Well, just real quick, I've never heard of Border Patrol agents and U.S. Marshals driving Mercedes-Benz and high luxury cars. But to close this, bottom line, we ask the support of the City of Los Fresnos to help us preserve the integrity of our neighborhood by denying applications that deviate from the single-family dwellings. We do not want, and this is my wife and I, we do not want multi-tenant dwellings in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, that will conclude our public hearing on item number 2 at 6:42. We'll move on to action items. Action item number 1, consideration and action to approve a variance request on side setback requirements for a solar energy canopy from 6 feet to 1 foot located at 308 West 10th Street.
Mr. Chairman, before you address that, we've looked at it, and I think that to be consistent, we've always been consistently opposed to anything that close whenever it's walled. This one is canopy, it's open, so that's the only reason why we've seen it different. And as long as there's guttering on that edge to bring the water away from the neighbor's property, we think it can be granted. I do have concerns, like I think we've talked about many times, is that close, and but because it doesn't have walls, it's a little bit different, but y'all have to make that final call.
I have a question on that. Is it all flat? And how big is this? I see a picture here, but it's not completed.
Do you know how big those,
It's flat, it has a little decline. I'm gonna put gutters. It's rain, the water don't fall to the neighbors. It's like 1 foot away from my fence. I'm planning on putting gutters. I haven't put them yet because I haven't, until this is solved. I wanna invest and then have to take them off. And, our neighbor knows we always take care of it, our yard, he knows, I have.
Has this project been completed?
yes, I don't know if it's complete, we stopped it because there wasn't a permit. They just started without getting a permit, so we stopped it, and that's why it's coming to you now with pictures of what it kind of looks like already. I don't know if they put all the panels on?
It's being
Okay.
completed and, it's being completed and it didn't stop because, they had the permits.
No, they didn't have permits.
They did have permits. They just didn't do the 6 feet from.
Okay. They were supposed to stay 6 feet away, and that's the part of the permit. Okay, my apologies. You follow that? Yeah. The permit is to do it and stay 6 feet away. They did not, so now when we went inspected, say you didn't do it according to regulations. And so it's either do that or they're gonna have to get the people back out to cut off 6 feet of it.
Because I was gonna make a suggestion also to leave gap in between panels, a certain amount of gap in between panels, so water falls in their area and doesn't accumulate if it's so flat up there.
I do not know.
But since it's already completed, I mean, it's not much you can do.
Well, kind of, but that's why it's gotta come to you, is because if it's just completed and then it's okay, well, then people learn that and then they start doing that and they don't follow the regulations. Oh, well, I'm sorry. And so, although I recommend in this particular incident that it's okay as long as she puts up guttering, I don't think we need to be about, it's okay because it's already up. Well, you should have followed the rules whenever, as they were given in the beginning. Does that make sense?
Did the solar panels themselves, the size of them, is all forested out?
I live in a mobile home, so they told me the solar panels couldn't support on my roof. And before doing the canopy, since it has to go all the way to stay 1 feet, they asked for permission before starting to build it, that it was gonna be 1 feet apart. That to my understanding, they had the permit to do that. That's why they started it. If not, they wouldn't have started it.
Is this fence line accurate? Because it looked like it's right abutting the fence line there on this picture.
No, it's like 1 feet or maybe 1.5 feet to the fence. There's a big gap.
Would it be different if it was a carport?
No.
Same rules apply.
Same rules apply.
So this is essentially a carport
It's like a carport.
with solar panels on top?
Yes.
My concern when I saw this pictures is, and especially the first one, that it was pretty close to the neighbor's property line. That
Well, that's the only way we would recommend it, is if they put the guttering to keep the rainwater off of that edge, off of their property. If they refuse to do that, we wouldn't be recommending it.
Well,
Condition to keep it, right?
Right.
Conditional.
we have had some rain and the water goes to my property, not to his property. And I am planning on putting gutters if y'all decide to let me have it. Because the water comes like to my area, not to the neighbors.
So the project is complete over
Except for the gutters.
And she hasn't put the gutter up because if you don't approve it, well, then they're gonna have to figure out how to cut it off 5 more feet to make the 6 feet. There's already 1 feet. They'll have to somehow remove 5 feet.
Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion, we have a second. Consideration and action to approve variance requests on side setback requirements for solar canopy from 6 feet to 1 foot located 308 West 10th Street. All those in favor, say aye, signify by raising your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Number 2, consideration and action to approve the application for conditional use permit to allow 2 duplexes to locate at 100 and 102 North Canal Street, zoned R-1A, Single Family District. Before we start discussion on this, I guess it was an oversight on my part, but yeah, we were supposed to limit comments to 5 minutes, but I know that it was pretty impassioned, testimony or whatever you want to call it, making comments and so forth. And since I didn't stop the first one, well, I wasn't going to jump in and stop the others. So just to note, if you do happen to come back, because, obviously we want to get as much community input as we can. But thank you for letting us have that oversight. So discussion on this one, Mark?
Yeah, I wanted to just make a couple of comments. I've been pretty, I think y'all know me, I've been pretty consistent in single-family homes district. It needs to stay that. I've been against allowing duplexes and things in single families for many of the reasons that the people have said. I've lost some of those that either you've approved or they've appealed it to the council and they've overturned, which is fine. That's the way the process works. And so I wanted to say that to the community. First of all, Mr. Udi and Sylvia do a fantastic job of building. If you haven't seen any of their homes, you should go. They're fantastic homes and do a wonderful job. So I have no problem with that. I think wherever they build duplexes, I hope not here, but wherever they build duplexes, I can guarantee you they'll be nice looking and handled very well. This is the process that's allowed by ordinances. You have a zone that's zoned a particular area. It allows for conditional uses under the right conditions, and sometimes it's an open and shut thing where the conditional use, just you look at it and you go, yeah, we probably should allow that. And so I just wanted the public to know that this is the process that's allowed. He's not asking for anything that unordinary that's not allowed for him to ask for. I think in this particular case, from staff-wise, that those should stay single family and not duplexes. So did I explain that right? Because I want y'all to know that in the process, and you being here completes that process so that this board then can know what the community thinks. And so I just wanted y'all to know that the process works tonight because you've got you here to help give them information to make a decision.
Any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to deny.
I second.
I have a motion to deny the consideration and action to excuse the consideration and action to approve the application for conditional use permit to allow 2 duplexes to locate at 102 North Canal Street, zoned R1A, Single Family District. The motion is to deny. All those in favor of the motion to deny signify by saying aye and raising your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The consideration act to approve has been denied. Number 3, consideration and action to excuse the absence of Javier Rodriguez.
Can I add a remark to this?
Certainly, yep.
I'm sorry, we can't have a dialogue, but he can make a statement, and there has been, I don't know whether it was this board or appealed to the council where there's been some, where there's allowed, not very many, for the reason that Mr. Mead mentioned, just that to keep it pure, single family, you keep in single family. There is this mostly east side over here is available for multifamily, and quite a bit of vacant area for that.
Okay, back to action item number 3. Consideration and action to excuse the absence of Javier Rodriguez from the June 20, 2022 Planning and Zoning meeting. Any discussion, Mark?
He was sick, so.
Yeah, have a motion? Second?
I second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Consideration and action to excuse the absence of Javier Rodriguez from the June 20, 2022 Planning and Zoning meeting. All those in favor say aye, signify by raising your right hand.
Aye.
Motion carries. Action item number 4, consideration and action to approve the minutes from June 20, 2022.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion has been made to approve and seconded. Consideration and action to approve the minutes from June 20, 2022. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your right hand.
Aye.
Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. 6:58.